Okay, welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk EI Conversations with Jacqueline Hines. And today I have a special guest. He is Dr. Hank Clemons, and he is my friend and my mentor and the CEO and founder of the Society of Emotional Intelligence there in America. He also is the CEO and founder of HLC Group Consultancy. But before I give all of his secrets away, I'm just going to ask Hank to introduce himself and tell us a bit more about him. Hi, Hank.
Well, hello, everyone. Jacqueline, mind if I call you Jackie?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Well, thanks for inviting me to be on the show today. One, it's a pleasure and it's a treat. So thanks for that. And I know it's not like mid-morning or early morning. It's probably late evening, but I appreciate you taking time to invite me to be on your show. So looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you.
Just to tell the folks a little bit about me, without them going to LinkedIn and pulling me up that way or Googling me. I'm actually, as Jackie said, the founder of the Society of Emotional Intelligence, which I'm happy. Jackie took on the challenges of having a chapter there in the UK. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Also, the founder, president, and well, my day job, as we say, is I run an organization called the HLC Group Consultancy. And really what that is, it's much like a psychiatrist or a psychologist that has a practice, and he or she will see their clients on a 50-minute basis. So for someone that may have anger issues, they come to me and share the fact that they have anger issues, and we discuss that, and we offer types of information on an educational basis that will help them to be able to resolve their anger. The same would apply with anxieties or some other issue of an emotional nature. So what I call it is I help people regain and maintain their emotional balance. It's like a tire on a car that is out of balance. And we know when the tire is out of balance, it sort of wobbles. It's not, really straight, and it doesn't feel comfortable. Well, emotionally, neither do we when we're emotionally out of balance. So what I do is I help people regain and maintain their emotional balance.
Okay, great. That's a fantastic analogy. I love it. The tire. I don't know about the tire bit. I wouldn't class myself as an old car tire, but it's a great analogy about balance.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So your title for your topic today, what we're going to talk about is the SMART approach to emotional intelligence. Do tell us more, because you've been lifting the corner and showing us little snippets. I just want to now.
Well, before I get into talking about the SMART approach to emotional intelligence, I'm just going to just kind of take you, particularly for those that may not have any idea of what emotional intelligence is, just a little bit about what emotional intelligence is. And you can Google the concept, and there are lots and lots of ways to describe or to define emotional intelligence. But my short definition for emotional intelligence is it's being smart about your emotions and those of others. So being smart about your emotions means that you're being intelligent about your emotions. So being smart about your emotions and those of others is what emotional intelligence is. And because of that, there's been a lot of research over the years that have been done around emotional intelligence. And much like cars or trucks or even bicycles, there are a lot of different models, you know. So there may be some models that say that there are 4 quadrants or 4 pillars to emotional intelligence, like self-awareness, social awareness, um, relationship management, and social management. But 4 quadrants make up emotional intelligence. There are other models that may say that there's self-awareness and self-management, interpersonal relationships, uh, and maybe some other, what we might call mm, um, states, or we might call um, quadrants, or we might call core competencies that makes up emotional intelligence. But regardless to what model a person might ascribe to, it's not about the model. It's about the application. It's about the person being able to use what's within the model. In other words, it's not about um, the HCl, which is salt. It's about the salt when we put it on the food, how it makes our food taste.
Right.
So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
so it's not about the salt itself, it's about what it does.
Mm.
So for emotional intelligence, it's not about the models, it's about being able to apply the models to different situations. But in order to apply the models, you do have to pretty much understand a little bit about what emotional intelligence is. So uh, let me stop at this point and see if there's more clarification that I can add, or a question that you might have around that.
Right. Okay. No, that's great. Thanks for that, because I know that for myself with emotional intelligence, when I first went into it, there was quite a few models that I actually looked at. And I suppose in a sense, and I can only speak for myself, it's about what resonated with me. Because
Okay.
I looked at 6 Seconds and I looked at Daniel Goldman's, I've looked at others, but I think, you find your kindred spirit in a certain model, and how you actually develop and train others, coach others, and how it actually weaves into your style and personality. And I think,
Absolutely.
I would be bold enough to say that, like with, if you're looking for a car or even an outfit, it has to be something that resonates with you, that is pleasing to you, but that also fits with your personality and your style. Um, so when I think about other models, can you think of anything else that others would really need to know in terms of what's relevant for them? Because I know that I've met quite a few people who have sort of said, "Oh yes, I've heard of emotional intelligence. It's really great. I did it in my degree, or
Hmm.
I've been reading loads of books." But one thing I
Absolutely.
must remember, and I think about a lot, is what you said when we first got talking about it. It's about what you do with what you know, and I've never forgotten that. That's one of my mantras. So with emotional intelligence, when you're disseminating it to individuals, what are the key things that you think individuals will be looking for, in order for them to be able to say, A, buy into it, but also get upskilled from it as well?
Well, and thank you for asking that. Well, what I say to people a lot of the time, that there are 4 kinds of people in the world around emotional intelligence. 4 kinds of people, or 4 types of people.
Okay.
So there's the person who doesn't know and doesn't use emotional intelligence. Now, and that's not an unusual place to be, because there are probably lots of people that have never heard of the term emotional intelligence. And there are people that obviously don't use emotional intelligence. So there are those that don't know and don't use emotional intelligence.
Okay.
That's one type. A second type would be those that don't know but use emotional intelligence. Now, we say maybe how can that be? But just think of it in terms of where sometimes you see a young kid at a very early age, maybe 2 or 3 years old, you can sit them down at a piano and they can play Bach and Beethoven, and
Yeah.
they're able to, they're musically inclined. They've never went and taken a class, but they just have the skill. So sometimes there are people that are born with the skill of emotional intelligence, and without taking any classes, they automatically can use that skill. Okay. The third type would be those that use but don't know, use but don't know
Okay.
anything about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And again, they have the skill to be able to use something that they know very little about, but that's just one of those normal things that happens. And finally, there's the fourth type, and the fourth type is those that know and use emotional intelligence. And those would be the ones that may have read a lot, they've gone to maybe some of your workshops or classes, and they've become familiar with the concept of emotional intelligence. And now they've seen that this is something that has an application and they want to put it to work. Now, this is where we would like for everyone to be. We would like for everyone to know and use. However, everyone is not at that fourth level. A
Mm.
lot of people operate at the third level, and that is they know but don't use emotional intelligence. Know but don't use, meaning that they've gone to seminars, workshops, they've read books, but when you check with their coworkers or friends or others about them, they say, well, yeah, he or she knows a lot about emotional intelligence, but they don't display it. They don't seem to have good relationships with people. They don't seem to be a good team member, or they don't know how to be empathetic.
Mm.
So they know, but they don't use emotional intelligence. So those are the four types of people
Okay.
uh, that are out there.
Okay, thanks for that. As you were talking, I could think of a few people spring to mind where when you're talking to them about it, it's almost like, what are you talking about? But it's like you're doing it and they don't realize that they're actually doing it.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. They
yeah,
use but don't know.
that's it. That's it. I must admit, when I actually got involved with emotion intelligence, I hadn't realized that I'd been using it for all that time. Because you remember when we had this conversation
Yeah.
where for years I'd been doing change management, stress management, conflict resolution. And
Hmm.
when I actually came over and got licensed, it was almost like everything just crystallized for me. So,
Good.
I do class myself as EI savvy. And when I'm sort of like really getting people engaged, they kind of like think, yeah, I hear you, but emotional intelligence is great, but you know why should I get involved in it? And that's something that I want to sort of like put to you when you're engaging with individuals that would be able to use emotional intelligence, and it would benefit not only them but the workforce if they're a leader. What is the EI and the WIIFM? Sounds like a radio station.
Yeah, that's the old radio station WIIFM. WIIFM actually stands for What's in It for Me. And that's the question that people have to answer before they do anything. If they're going to go buy a house, if they're going to buy groceries, they have to answer, what's in it for me? Why am I doing this?
Mm,
And once they satisfy the WIIFM or the WIFM, we
mm,
call it also, once they satisfy that, then they're more likely than not to proceed. So while a person may not know that much about emotional intelligence, when they learn and they discover this concept of emotional intelligence, many times that's where they stop because they have not answered that question, what's in it for me? So what's in it for me could be to develop a better relationship with my spouse,
Mhm.
or it could be to be better at interviewing for jobs, or it could be better at managing or leading others. So there are a lot of WIFMs or a lot of WIIFM, but until the person can really answer that question, he or she is likely not to proceed any further.
Right. Okay. I know, you know, through my own experience, rather than jumping at the deep end with leaders and trying to get them engaged, what I've been doing is I've been introducing the ESAP, or the Emotional Intelligence Skills Assessment Profile, and
Okay,
this is part of the HLC Group sort of like offering as well, which is great because it actually informs individuals about their self-awareness, their self-management, their social awareness, and their relationship management. So it's
sure,
kind of like EI broken off in bite-sized chunks and applying it. And
exactly.
yeah, and I think that's great. And it does actually answer their question, what's in it for me, because they can see and use it, go away and apply it. And then later on down the track, I then try and introduce them to the EQI 2.0, which is,
Great tool.
yeah, more comprehensive, and it's easy for them to start building on what they've already gained through the.
Exactly.
So that's great, and I'm glad it's working really well over here, and I'm hoping to be launching a bit more into the EQ leadership aspect of a formula for the
Great.
with emotional intelligence and a coaching program there. So you know it's working really well over here for me, and what I wanted to find out is how the SMART approach, you know, to emotional intelligence fits into all of the equation with HLC Group consultancy. You can tell that I'm dying to find out. Come on.
Okay. Well, when we started off with the definition around emotional intelligence, one of the things that I said, it was being smart about your emotions,
Absolutely.
and being smart about your emotions and those of others. So within the definition is the word smart, and it's there for a reason, because I've taken the word smart and I've broken it up into 5 major components, so that when an individual is looking at emotional intelligence and applying emotional intelligence, they have to, well, like if you're going on a picnic or if you're going on a holiday, you
Mhm.
get prepared to do that. You don't just say, oops, let's go on a holiday, oops, let's go on a picnic or whatever. You get prepared to do that. So in order to uh, engage in developing one's emotional intelligence, I feel or believe that they can use a SMART approach for doing that. And so SMART becomes an acronym. And I'll just kind of go through the letters to perhaps show you what I'm talking about.
Please
So
do.
the S in SMART stands for sincere.
Okay.
So in order for a person to be interested in emotional intelligence, I think they must be sincere. They must be free from pretense. In other words, not fooling around. They need to be genuine,
Hmm.
because their feelings are genuine. So if a person's feeling is genuine, or their feelings are genuine, then you need to approach it from that standpoint. So if I'm engaging you in emotional intelligence and working with you around emotional intelligence, first I need to be genuine with you, or sincere with you, in that this is something that is about you. This is something that is going to be dealing with you. So this is a serious matter. In
Okay.
other words, emotional intelligence is as kids would say, emotional intelligence is nothing to play with it. So we want to approach it from a sincere perspective. The
Okay.
M is for mindfulness. And mindfulness is all about focusing.
Right. Okay.
So we need to be able to focus our attention on whatever is present. So many times people are talking about emotional intelligence and their mind is wandering, or they say, I can't be in the moment. Well, being in the moment is a part of emotional intelligence. So if one is not ready for mindfulness, then that's something that they can begin to practice, because it's really important, you know, because we have to carefully observe our thoughts and our feelings without judging them and saying, these are not good or bad feelings, these are just feelings. So we need to be in the moment with what's going on with us. The A in SMART is accountable.
Okay.
Now, accountable means we have to take responsibility. We need to take ownership of our emotions, of our feelings. Sometimes people say, well, he made me feel this way, or she made me feel. No, they didn't. You are responsible for how you feel. Now, they may have done something that caused you to generate that emotion or that feeling, but they didn't make you feel this way or that way. That was something that you were in total control over. So you have to be accountable, taking responsibility for your own action, being responsible for your own feeling. In other words, you have to own it.
Right.
Okay. So
Okay.
that's the A. The R in SMART is resilient.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Now, there comes a time in everyone's life when we're going to be have situations that we may not be as successful as we wanted to be, or when the conditions may be such that they are not ideal. We may have to face some adversity here and there. So it's a matter of, do we allow that to keep us down, or are we able to spring back from that? It
Hmm.
could be, relationships, or it could be in the workplace, or it could be financial stressors. It can be any number of things, but we have to be really resilient.
Okay.
Emotional intelligence is about being resilient with your emotions. In other words, rather than staying, keeping, maintain the feeling of being defeated or down, it's being able to spring back from that. And then finally, there's the T in SMART, and the T, tenacious.
Okay.
The T is tenacious, not readily relinquishing a position or a principle or a course of action. It's about being determined. It's about being persistent. It goes very well with being resilient. In other words, you know, you have to want to do something, and you want to have to want it bad enough. In other words, you have to go after that which you feel or believe you want. So if it's a job or it's a relationship, you have to stay with it. You have to go after it. You have to be tenacious.
Mm.
Now, I like the word tenacious personally, because it's like, you know, you keep after it, it's like, not giving up. We have this term called optimism, which
Yes.
is within the EI lexicon, if you will.
Uh-huh.
But I like tenacious, because I think tenacious is greater than optimism, in that, you know, I'm optimistic about it, but I'm tenacious.
Mm. You're not giving up. You're
I'm not
determined.
giving up,
Yeah.
very determined. So I think if a person engages the SMART approach, or they use the SMART approach to emotional intelligence, they will be able to not only grasp the concept of emotional intelligence, but be able to see how they can do the WIIFM. In other words, they can see how it can apply to them in different ways. So it's being able to make it come alive.
Okay.
Emotional intelligence is something that lives. It's
Mm,
not just an image or a picture or a term that people use. I like to use the term emotional intelligence is more than a term, it's a practice. So it's
right.
something that we do
Yeah.
and we do and we do. We don't just say it, we do it. So
Right.
that's the SMART approach to emotional intelligence.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So the SMART approach to emotional intelligence is sincere, mindfulness, accountable, resilient, and tenacious. I love
Absolutely.
it. I absolutely love it. So is there going to be any training around that where you can apply? Is that a model that we can apply in an alignment with any of the other models that are out there?
Well, actually, and thanks for bringing that up. This is really a universal model.
Okay.
And so it doesn't matter whether you're a four quadrant model or a Daniel Goleman model or a S.M.A.R.T model or a Wang model or whoever model. The main thing about emotional intelligence is that it comes down to two things. It comes down to your emotions and it comes down to the emotions of the other. So it's only two areas, yours and theirs,
Right.
or yours and another. So
Uh-huh.
with those two, there can be as many models as there you can probably count on one hand or two hands, but they all talk about your emotion and the emotions of others and being able to manage or deal with or control or master or somehow uh, utilize the skills of dealing with those emotions. So regardless of whose model that one uses, if you use the SMART approach, you're going to be successful with the model.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I definitely will be using that. And I definitely will be using your book as part of my training, your latest book.
Oh,
Um,
good.
is for everyone. So, you know, if you can you sort of like tell the audience a bit more about your latest book, because I think it's fantastic and it works really well with the ESAP.
Well, my latest book is titled EQ is for everyone or emotional intelligence is for everyone. Now, I really do use EI rather than EQ, but I use EQ in terms of the title for the book because most people are familiar with the term EQ rather than EI. But
Right.
the idea is for people to recognize and understand that it doesn't matter who you are, what age, what gender, what ethnicity, uh, that emotional intelligence is something that's available for you to use as a skill. So some people go, well, what if I'm in banking? You know, can I use emotional intelligence? Of course, because you interface with people. People have emotions around money. So, of course, emotional intelligence can be applied in banking. They say, well, what about in the military? Well, again, uh, even though military may be, very structured, it is still based on how individuals feel about things. Because some of the information out there says that 80% of the decisions that we make are emotional decisions, and only 20% decisions are bad. It's just the fact that over 2/3 of the decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis is based on emotions. So if that's the case, doesn't it make sense to be more intelligent about our emotions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Hank, thank you so much. Now, if anybody wanted to contact you, either for your consultancy services or your emotional intelligence consultancy and assessment, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, the easiest way is just email at Hank Clemons, the name HankClemons @gmail.com. That's the easiest way, hankclemons@gmail.com. Or you can look me up on LinkedIn, or you can Google me, or if you can, or you can just contact Jacqueline Hines. I'm sure she pretty much knows where I am most of the time.
You're right there. I do keep track of you. I do. Dr. Hank, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for introducing your concept and the topic, the interesting topic of the SMART approach to emotional intelligence. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and I hope we can do this again.
Oh, looking forward to it. One of the things I want to say before I go is that if this gets aired or posted before our annual conference, the Society of Emotional Intelligence is holding its annual conference April 5th and 6th in sunny Orlando, Florida. So anyone that, well, wants a little sunshine, wants a little vacation time, come on over April 5th and 6th.
Thank you very much for mentioning that. Naughty me, I should have mentioned it because I'm actually going to the conference and I'm looking forward to it. Fantastic. So thank you very much. The flyers are out there, and you know, you've been listening to Dr. Hank Clemons having a conversation with me, Jacqueline Hines, on the SMART approach to emotional intelligence. Tune in again and subscribe for other conversations I'll be having with other interesting individuals coming up soon. Thank you.